What up, everyone? K Ruggs, the Sober Dog, here with a very special guest today. Somebody I've been watching for years on YouTube, CG Kid. What's going on, CG? How you doing, bro?
Doing good, man.
Awesome. I'm so excited to, finally meet you and have you on. And, I want to just jump right into it and, start with I know everyone's experience on how they got started with drugs or alcohol and addiction is a little bit different. What was your starting point?
I mean, it's pretty standard, I just trauma, abuse, wanting to fit in, and starting with weed and then going to naturals like shrooms, then prescription drugs, and then illicit, more like ecstasy and meth and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was pretty typical start. It had it's a weird ending, like my story. It didn't really start until about a year ago, and I look back and I'm like, dude, how the hell? Because like on my channel, I kind of take, I explain experiences. That's what people like about me, and explain things like DMT and salvia and LSD. And I was like, how do you explain this? I was like, it's dumbfounding. It's
Yeah.
like recovery is something that happened to me. It's not something I did. It's like when you even take a drug like LSD, it's LSD is happening to you. You're not making yourself trip. LSD is making you trip. And recovery was like, it's something that happened to me, kind of like my heart beating. It's not something that I really chose. And honestly, looking back, I don't know if I would have chose it if I knew what it meant, because it was intense. Like it was a spiritual awakening, and there's like a big glorification of awakening and support group meetings and the psychedelic community and just in general with like Eastern philosophy.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's for everybody. I think when someone struggles with addiction, they're kind of in a life or death situation where they need to awaken, and some of them do, but not everybody's meant to awaken. And awakening is it's weird. It's a very hard experience. So my story was like, going from one drug to the next, and progressive. I mean, I feel like it's a pretty stereotypical story of how I got into drugs, toxic relationships, and then getting sober June 9th, 2013. But when I got sober June 9th, 2013, I just saw that the drugs were like heading me on a bad route. So my recovery was very based on the external world. I was saying, I don't want to end up in prison. I don't want to end up dead. These are very external things. And so I got sober for that. But my way of seeing the world and way of seeing life was still like, it's good to go to college. It's good to, and none of these things are good. They're just neutral. Like it is what it is. It is if it isn't. It's not a big deal. But I put like so much value on that kind of stuff, like my career and making music and trying to make the best music to impress people, and exercise. And I thought like my recovery was very based on the environment. And so when YouTube was one of the things I did, I worked in marketing and I was doing all kinds of projects, and that was just the one that took off. And it was a video, "What's Meth Like?" And I realized like drug education with the harder drugs hasn't been done. It's a lane I could go in. So I went into that lane and I had fun doing it. But my ego got like really inflated, like big time by it. I didn't really think I needed much of anything else. So I kind of let go of everything. Like I let go of exercise, I let go of support group meetings, I let go of college, I let go of my job, like a lot of things. And my world like became that. And it became like my identity almost. It's like who CG Kid was and who Philip was. I didn't know who Philip was. And my sense of self was like totally based on how other people saw me, how the algorithm saw me.
Wow.
And at the beginning, my ego inflated. Like it was somewhere I'd go to a support group meeting, and it was like I was looking forward to telling people what I did. It was like my identity. I imagine if someone like is a doctor or something, and they're looking forward to that question, "What do you do for a living?"
Yeah.
And I self-separated from everybody else. So that inflation of ego ultimately led to like a bottoming out. It only worked for a little while. I mean, it was like drugs. Like you build a tolerance to excitement, and you build a tolerance to ego too. And the only way for the ego to die, I feel like, is for it to like basically eat itself. It's like cannibalism. So it like inflated so much that it just started eating itself, because it's like this big hole, and eventually the hole is bigger than what's filling it. And then at that point, I got severely depressed. I ended up with suicidal ideation. I had to go to a mental health facility October I believe it was 2018. And then I got out and I was still depressed. And I told the world I relapsed. Like a million people saw it. I thought that would help me. That didn't help me. And then I made a second channel. And on that channel, I made a really big point of like showing people my mess of a life and telling people how the things I was embarrassed about. Because what I kind of learned is that what I was experiencing was conditioned narcissism. And social media has a tendency to do that to people. It's actually their business model is to condition people towards narcissism because intimacy hurts their business. So you're either socializing on social media or you're intimate in real life, and they see intimacy as a threat. This is actually in their business model. It's written down there. That's why hate posts and stuff like that, edgy stuff. That's how it was in my channel. Like, you know, I was making content because I knew what people wanted to see and what was popular. It wasn't as genuine, you know. That's the thing. I've come to the realization, like I had to realize there's a selfishness underneath the surface, and on the surface, like this good guy, it's doing great things, but deep down, it's like it's almost like you look at a car and you just see it moving. That's how people see me, but I actually see the engine and the grind and the dirt underneath that makes it all work. And so like that's like changing. You know, I didn't necessarily want to make all those drug videos, but I was like, this is what's popular, and I needed that as a supply for validation. So you know, that's conditioned narcissism. I was wearing a mask and it was exhausting, and I was so depressed and I was hiding it. And I ended up like, there was one time where I was just so depressed. I didn't drink water for like 3 days to punish myself. I starved myself. One time I punched the ground until I fractured my knuckles, like a wood floor. And this is all while I'm making these videos and looking like a normal guy. And it was just exhausting. Yeah. And so when I was suicidal, I mean, I came back and I was still depressed. And that lasted for a while. It was like 4 months. And I started making videos again, and some about it just wasn't right. And I was like, dude, my mind is just so fast. It felt like I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think straight. My mind was just always working, and it was nonstop. Always the future, anxiety, or the past, regret and depression. It was just this, I would wake up, my brain would feel inflamed. And then I was like, what the hell? And one day it's like, it crossed the line. I realized my thoughts were my problem. I think too much. I got into mindfulness. And then I got diagnosed ADHD, which made a lot of sense back then. You know, and honestly, the medication did help me get out of a hole I was in. But looking back, I mean, of course I was ADHD. I mean, we understand like circumstantial depression. If you get divorced, you're going to be depressed, but we don't understand circumstantial ADHD. You know, if you're a social media influencer, you're living a sedentary lifestyle, you're eating junk food, you're going to look ADHD. I mean, you're distracted all the time. And then, so it was a misdiagnosis, but honestly, I'm glad it happened and I walked through that. And it's kind of a long way to get to where I'm at today. You know, there's a lot that's happened since then even.
Wow. You just threw out so much incredible information. And, you know, I was thinking about too, when you're talking about the, you know, ego with the videos, that dopamine hit from, you know, putting a video out there, even like, I've seen it on a smaller scale on like TikTok and Instagram, and something pops and that dopamine hit and you want to do more and more and more. And it really, but all that other stuff too, that is incredible that you saw that in the spiritual awakening. I know, and I'm a big 12-step person, talk about sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. I know in my case, is a slower progression of little seeds planted that built up, but it is very hard to dig deep and face all that past traumas and everything. That is that's absolutely incredible though, that the way you see everything is just incredible. Even like the analogy with the car and how your channel, and you see the you know, the inside workings of what's going on. But you know, I'm trying to think, when you were doing those videos and all these other people are you know, benefiting from it, but you're struggling so much on the inside doing that things, what kind of pushed you out of it, or really got you out of it? You know, the diagnosis with the ADD, or you know what I mean? Like when you were saying,
I'd love to share that with you. It was like before I got diagnosed with ADHD, I had a spiritual awakening experience, and I was listening to Alan Watts. I was reading Eckhart Tolle. I was very in, because I was big into the 12 steps. I still go to 12-step meetings, and
Sure.
but I was big into it too. But I seemed to always struggle with the power greater than my understanding, because I always saw it as an outside thing, saw it inside.
Yeah.
And I needed to be educated on the inside, because I feel like with westernization of there's certain things, like if we're like, I know it, like 12-step programs aren't religious, but they do have some basis on, like, the Bible, which is,
Sure.
it's been a pretty mistranslated book. I took me like forever to learn some Aramaic, and what Yeshua Mashiach was saying was that the power is within. He was very emphasizing on that, and very pluralized. He wasn't as individualized, but it's kind of like we kicked him out of the house, but instead of kicking him out the front door, we kicked him upstairs, made him this unattainable external thing. And I don't affiliate with any religion, but when the whole society is clearly based on a religion, I mean, I don't think it's just 12-step meetings. I think it's America. I think it's always about finding the power outside yourself. Yeah. And been in religion, it's like the higher power, God, is outside of us. Money, it's outside of us. Fame, attractiveness, family, even having a family, having a career. These are things that we all just, I always automatically just said those things are good, but the reality is I have no control over them. I have no control over my career. I have no control over what, my family's going to do. So it's like, these are still things outside of me, even though it sounds like a great thing, because I've been conditioned to believe that. So I had to get into the Eastern path and combine it with the Western, which is the Eastern's very focused on finding a power within yourself. And, like I said, I think Yeshua was very Eastern, and Buddha, and they weren't really the yoga philosophy. All of it is very, very almost exactly the same. It's just different flavors, but they're all very focused on finding the power within. And so my higher power, I had to find it within, and I find it in stillness. I mean, the best way I could say is I was connected to it when I was a baby. And I look at like babies and I'm like, do they even know they're separate from the room? That's like a good question. Like someone breaks through on DMT, they're not separated from the experience. And in life, we're not really as separate from the experience of life, because we have the I am, and the I am everything has. Like if I could ask a dog, who are you? And he doesn't have a self-conception. He doesn't know he's a dog. He doesn't know what kind of dog he is. I don't even believe dogs know they're separate from the experience. I think to a dog, the owner is them. The room is them. And the same with babies. When they look at their hands, I don't think they're separate from that. They don't even know they're separate. They think they are everything. And I reconnected to that. And it's like, you could watch like a sports game and people be like, wasn't that awesome? That you saw that. I'll be like, I was that. You could feel so connected and so alive, because the 12-step program always focused on human connection. And through the Eastern path, they started connecting to everything that has the I am. And I started realizing everything has it, even the trees and the grass and all the animals, and finding meaning in life. Like, I used to always wonder what my purpose was, but finding it in just being alive and not having to have a higher purpose or a higher meaning, like changing the world or helping all these people. It's like, why does a hummingbird survive? To live. But the reality is the hummingbirds, the otters, all these animals, by surviving, their meaning of life is just to live. But that creates an ecosystem where we can survive, in it with them. So in a way, we're one with them. And connecting to that quiet place inside, my higher power is there's even an identity of being sober. Like I am sober. There's I am there's so many. I am depressed. I identified with emotions.
Yeah.
I'm a YouTuber. I am angry. I'm thinking this, I'm thinking that. And so every time I started saying, I am that, I am that, I am that, I stopped, because I realized it's degrading to try to turn me into a mental conception. Like I am a mystery that's unspeakable, and so is everybody else. And at that very core level, we're connected and we're all one. And that's like my higher power. And through that, it's like I heard things like, I love myself. It's like a duality. I mean, who's the I, who's the self? I mean, you're saying yourself belongs to the I. So you're saying by that statement, the I is a power greater than the self. But I never connected to that I, because this society, it never promoted that to me when I was growing up. It was never about being still. Everything is fast. It was always about chasing excitement, which is chaotic, rather than chasing peace, which is joyful. It was always about more and more and more. It's almost like I started seeing and then I stepped out of this box when I started connecting to this power, and I started seeing society as a very sick, dysfunctional thing. I mean, the drug addiction is this one very small part of society. And honestly, I think the drug addicts, they at least know they're addicted. And we have a society that looks at a drug addict, condemns them because they're doing something bad to their body. But look at what we as a society are doing to the earth. I mean, we're polluting environments, we're poisoning the atmosphere. And then they'll say, well, drug addicts can harm someone else. I'll say, look at what we're doing to the animals. Look at what we're doing to the homeless. Social media causes teen suicide to go up, and we don't even regulate it to be 18 and older. The kind of foods we eat and the kind of lifestyle that we're living. And when I step out and look at it, I'm not condemning people. It's actually like a thing where you can weep for humanity, where you realize that, you know, the factory cow is a producer, but the factory human is a consumer. And we have this society that's designed to making everything fast and easy, removing us from our primal nature, manipulating it. Like human bodies, what are we? One thing I know we are is we're made to work, but it seems like I always get ads for cheaper, faster, more convenient. And now we're in a point where you want to socialize, you want to eat, like Uber Eats, you can just get it delivered to you. You want to socialize, social media. You want to watch TV, oh, it'll recommend things. You don't even have to search for it. You want to learn something, don't call somebody that knows how to do it and give them a sense of purpose. You know, Google it. And then you get it fast and easy. You don't have to work for anything anymore. And I don't think that that's healthy. And I think that there are powers that be that, you know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think this is pretty obvious. There's powers that be that have the science and the research and the data to understand our primal nature, and they're manipulating it to make us good consumers, to make us live jobs and lives that are miserable, so we escape with their products. And you know, I stepped out of that box when I connected to this power, and I was quiet and still, because when you connect to nature and you could see life the way the human species, the way nature would see it, it's different. You know, like our ancestors, we live in this box where we the past, like I'm 31, so it's like up until 31 everybody's opinions were relevant, but I never asked about I'm asking about myself as a human in society, but I never asked about myself as a human and as a species. What would humans 500 years ago say about how I'm living? They probably look at me and say, you pay to go to a gym to work, you sit all day. Like, in a way they'd say how nice, but they would also say how weird, you know, how weird, you know. And back then that was like a royalty thing. That's why everybody was thin, except like the heavier people were in royalty, because then people worked all day. They probably ate once a day, and they had natural diets. And anyways, you know, it's a long-winded point to say that I don't know where this came from. I don't have any answers. And I don't think that recovery is something that I did. I think it's something that happened to me. And I had to get down to asking like the real hard questions. And I think everybody can do that. Drug addicts are just, you know, they're one segment of society. The one thing I like about the drug addict is at least, you know, it's like when COVID happened and quarantine went down, everybody was jinxing. Everybody was so anxious. I can't stay in my home. They were so miserable about it. And then the guy who's a heroin addict on the side of the street, nothing changed. Yeah. It's like for humans, it's like the economy could crash. I have to stay inside. I need all these things to be able to be happy. And the drug addict usually only needs one thing. And the heroin addict on the side of the road at least knows they're addicted, and they know they have one thing. Where everybody else, it kind of seems like they're in this autopilot mode, and they never stop and say, like, wait a second here. Like, this not working stuff isn't working for me, you know? Yeah. Anyway, a long way to get to.
You said it perfect, that stillness. I think so many people were petrified when that happened, of sitting in the stillness of our head. And that was an incredible way. And yeah, America specifically, we're so conditioned that next step, go to, you know, you worry about high school, then you worry about college, then, you know, once I'm married, once I have a career, and we never stop to enjoy where we're at, but B, like you said it perfect, see the cycle of consumerism that we're just thrown into, of constantly do this, buy that, purchase this. I mean, you know, people have thousands of dollars on their credit card on autopilot every month, ordering 9 streaming services and these things. And it's, but again, the thought of sitting and taking 10 minutes in our own thoughts, to many folks, and myself included for years, and even still, is like, holy shit, I got to sit here and face whatever I'm thinking right now. But yeah, you broke that down, and incredible.
Thank you.
I was going to ask, so you mentioned a little while ago, you know, you started off with marijuana. What is your take, I'm in New York. I know we just got legalized, and my parole officer actually showed up at my house the other day and said, "I'm here to let you know legally you can now smoke weed." And that was it. And she walked away. And for myself, I don't. But do you believe it's a gateway drug? And are you for legalization, federal, everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely for legalization, because it's really stupid. Because like, there's things that when you really get into understanding, well, I don't really understand it, but when you get into understanding human physiology, there's things that are legal that are just preposterous. Like the McDonald's Happy Meal that's marketed to 5-year-olds is absolutely insane to me. For giving a 5-year-old sodium benzoate, tetra THBQ, like certain chemicals that are neurotoxic at 5, and even in the school system, giving them sugar and these commercials for like cereals that make it flashy and cartoony, what they're literally doing to kids. And then social media, and what they're doing to kids is they're turning them into addicts for money. I mean, and it's like, if we could sit back and watch that, why the hell can adults not make their own decision? If we are, I mean, a kid can't make their own decision. The parents choose for them. I'm not on the parents. I don't blame them. I mean, I'm not even a parent. I can't speak on it, but they're helpless. And if we as a society can't take care of them, then why the hell are we parenting adults? Why are we not banning, high fructose corn syrup from schools for elementary kids, but we're banning marijuana for adults? I think we're better at parenting the adults than the children. And the reality is, like, the reason people are better at that is because they vote for the politicians that make these laws. And it's not fair to the police. It's not fair to the police. These are laws that they shouldn't have to enforce. They have enough with traffic, murder, all kinds of really bad things. And it's not fair to them. But what these people voting, when they vote on that motive, they just need a sense of moral superiority. So they need to feel like everybody as an adult is a child except them. And as far as the children go, they see it and they know it, but they need to prove that they're the marijuana smoker's the child and they're the adult. And so I'm for legalization, absolutely. And I don't think we're going to get anywhere with the current, prison's a for-profit industry. So I used to try to make sense of the world, and that will drive you crazy.
Yeah.
You got to sit back and laugh at how senseless it is, at some point. And it is, because then you say marijuana being illegal, senseless, but then you say also the prison industry senseless, like making money off of people in prison or jail, and they don't get paid any of it, is the definition of slavery. And so it's like, and then when you have like predominantly certain ethnicities go into prison, it is just a way to make slavery, where it's okay to the Christian voter, evangelist Christian voter, whatever it is. I'm not trying to put down Christians, but you know what I mean, that uptight, and it could be any religion, really. I shouldn't even have said that, but that uptight, just, I'm better than everybody else because I don't have to do anything bad. They chose it. I don't choose things. And they see choice as like a linear, like right and wrong is black and white. There's only a binary code because their minds are that simple. They don't have an open mind. This is actually narcissism and yang energy, which is very predominant. It's been predominant in the United States. Yang energy is it. I think it's important to have that. Yes, you can choose. It's your choice. But there's a yin energy that needs to be with that, yes, it's your choice. You can just stop being homeless and get a job. But we understand your freedom of choice is relative. You were abused, you were addicted to drugs. So we're going to give you the freedom to make that choice by making your circumstances better. A long way to answer it, but the bottom line is, like, I've intellectualized this, but at the end of the day, like, it's better to look at the world as senseless and learn how to laugh at it. Like we were talking earlier about, I was talking to you about, being present. You said something, we're always conditioned to graduate high school, then college, and that. And it's always the next thing, like, we're going to be happy someday.
Yeah.
We see life as like a pilgrimage or a journey. And the reality is life is much more like music, because the point of a song isn't the end of it. The point is to enjoy it. This is something Alan Watts was saying.
Oh, that is a phenomenal analogy.
Yeah, it's not about the fastest end of the song. And then when you look at the dog, so you're in the car racing to get somewhere, you're focused on where you're going, just like you're focused on finishing college or anything. Or you're even walking the dog. The dog has his head out the window and is enjoying the ride. Yeah. And you're anxious until you turn on a song. And then when you like that song, you start getting more present. So when you try to make sense of the world, the problem is it's a destination. You're driving, you're trying to get somewhere to make sense of something. And I think it's fine to go in that path of making sense of it, but it should be playful. You should be jamming out to your song while you're going there and enjoying the ride. And that's what recovery looks like to me. It's my sponsors are animals mostly. I look at them and observe their behavior, and pet therapy is a real thing. And I actually am humble to them to try to learn lessons. And they're really just teaching me how to engage in the present and see work as play, that's like being the here and now and not have all these conceptions everywhere of self. And
I was gonna say that's awesome too, what you just said about the animals. When I was in prison, guys would bust my balls because they got, Cardi B and Nicki Minaj and their girlfriend on the wall, and I had my dogs. It's exactly why I named it Soberdogs. I feel like we could learn so much from the presentness of animals, the enjoyment. Yeah, of course, it's a simple mind, but they're just that to me. They are. Before I had the ability to sit still for 10 minutes and meditate, petting my dogs or cats was my meditation until I evolved enough to be able to do it. But that point you said too about the uptight people is so incredible. I have a good family member who, by smoking weed, were able to cut out 3 prescriptions, but yet they would go out, and these quote uptight higher class citizens or upper class would sit there drinking 4 or 5 drinks, taking Vicodin and Xanax, and then criticize this person for smoking a joint who doesn't drink, doesn't take their any prescriptions now. And it was, like you said, such a 1 or 2 linear pick binary, and it's there's so many gray areas and facets, and it's not my point to
human biology is just one. So that's something I learned in recovery. So I was diagnosed ADHD and put on Adderall, and then I went to Wellbutrin, and then I took Wellbutrin and Vyvanse towards the end of it. And at some point I realized, like, when I got diagnosed, like, hey, your life was kind of shitty, like you're conditioned to be ADHD, but I also realized that there was something deeper wrong. And it was mainly weight gain. Like, I gained weight really easily. Libido was low, and I realized I always had a low libido. And I basically was like, something else is wrong. Skin stuff, like my skin was always really dry. I was like, what else is this? There's something physically wrong with me. And I got blood work done, and they found high cortisol, low vitamin D.
Really?
Yeah, and that would cause symptoms of ADHD. And I've been deficient vitamin D my whole life. Apparently, I believe that, but I never got a blood test done, ever. Not one rehab. I've been to 3 of them. One for suicidal ideation. You'd think they do blood work, and people say, well, my rehab did blood work. Great for you. But I asked around at a 12-step meeting, and there's so many people in recovery that have never gotten blood work done.
No.
So like the Western medicine is very focused on the mind. And, the mind makes you do bad things. And it fits into that binary code principle where, the mind's simple. You choose it. Your mind chooses it. But the reality is, like, having deficient vitamin D and high cortisol heavily influenced my behavior. As a matter of fact, that's what I was self-medicating with drugs all those years. Our bodies are so advanced. I mean, there's like 50 different hormones, and we can measure them. We know this. We know somebody that's deficient in vitamin D is going to have a different behavior than somebody who's sufficient. Same with every other vitamin, every hormone, every nutrient. Like, there's so many things that influence our behavior that it scares people, because people want to be able to judge. It makes them feel secure. Yeah. And to accept this is, they think if you can't judge people, everybody's just going to be a heretic. Everybody's going to choose to. It's like, if somebody gets mad at somebody for doing something bad, as if they got away with something. They got away with doing bad because I want to do bad, but I don't do bad. You did bad and you got away with it. It's like someone who drinks too much. Well, they almost act like they're jealous. Like, I wish I drank too much, but no, I'm too good. And they're getting high off their ego. It's crazy to me. So like, that set off a path of like the physiology part. So there's the spiritual part, which we kind of went over. The physical part is also really important. And what I'd say physically is that there needs to be in the Eastern way. Again, I go back to the East, but they see the mind as a part of the body. Like we have physical dependency, psychological. For some reason, only here we decide the mind is not a part of a body. It's its own thing. It's a separate thing from your body. But the reality is the mind is a part of the body because of our gut microbiome. Like a lot of people don't know this, but we are 90%, if you don't include red blood cells, we're 90% non-human bacteria cells. 90%, only 10% of our cells are human. If you include red blood cells, it's about a 50-50 split. So even in that case, we're 50% human. And these gut microbiome have access to every reward pathway in our brain. They have access to how we make every decision we make. As a matter of fact, like, a lot of people believe, and I believe to an extent, that we aren't humans. We're actually bacteria learning to be human. And inside our gut, there's 100 trillion bacteria cells. It's equivalent to 100,000 times all the people on Earth. I mean, and these things, there's good ones that want you to live because they want to stay in this home. They see you as a home. They give you good health. You feed them. You give them a good home. The bad ones want you to die so they could take over your body and eat you. And so the problem that a lot of addiction is caused by the diet that we have, the sedentary lifestyle. These all encourage bad bacteria. And believe it or not, these bad bacteria give you cravings in your brain and make you want to eat bad. They want you to die. They make you crave drugs. They make you stressed. They make you anxious. All the things that will kill the good ones. And so you have I know I go back to Yeshua, but Buddha said they were mourning him, and when he was dying, and he said, "Don't mourn me, find the light within yourself." And then Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within.
Yeah.
And I think there's a physical manifestation of it, that these 100 trillions of bacteria are a kingdom. And that's one thing that's kind of cool about not to go back to the Bible too much, but he always talks about judgment, like eating a fruit and spitting it out, or eating a fruit and enjoying it. And we're like the 100 trillion almost like living things. Yeah. And I kind of myself is that how I judge what I eat. And by understanding gut microbiome and the proper way to repair it, for example, like cultured foods, we have this society, you say bacteria, you automatically think bad. And that's one of the big diseases of our society, because there's good bacteria and bad bacteria. If I said microorganism, it wouldn't sound as bad. But the reality is, because of that, because we see bacteria as bad, we sterilize everything. Like sauerkraut is a probiotic food, and our ancestors fermented foods went before refrigeration, and it had good bacteria in it that would cause serotonin. Like 95% of our serotonin comes from our gut and these good bacteria. But no, we sterilize sauerkraut. You have to really specifically look for it. And I have to make my own stuff. Like I make milk kefir, water kefir, kombucha tea. And I'm like doing that with prebiotics to feed the good bacteria, which is high fiber. And
that's what I got right here is my because I've been researching that a lot too, the gut microbiome. And so I try to make my shake every morning with gut healthy foods. I thought it was kombucha, but kombucha tea, the fermented foods, beets, blueberries, other things. But that is an incredible point about all of it with the addiction, the foods in general, what we eat and leading to addiction. I totally lost my train of thought of what I was just going to ask you.
Well, I like the gut microbiome because it's not even just the diet. That's what I've learned about it. It's because the gut microbiome wants you to not be stressed. So it's mindfulness, and they want you to be active. So it's exercise. Like the gut microbiome is really interesting because it's not one thing. And recovery, one of the big issues I've had with it is it's always promoted as one thing. You do one thing and you'll be happy. You get sober and you'll be happy. And that's how life is in everything. It's like with yoga, you do yoga, you'll be happy. Meditation or motivation, take the 7 steps and you'll reach your dreams. And it's always this one way that's always sold to us, that it's going to be one thing. And since like when I've really found recovery, I realized that was like a hack or a trick or like some kind of shortcut to try to be happy and self-improve, to really improve yourself. This is the shortcut. Like it's always marketed that way. And sobriety sadly is marketed that way too. And since I've been in recovery, what I learned is there is no shortcut. There's no trick. The reality is it's hard work. It's discipline. Like I didn't have a sense of self and I didn't know how to get one, but they're honest. Like we hear self-respect, self-discipline, self-esteem. Like that's how you get a sense of self, is doing things that are respectable, doing things that are esteemable, fighting against temptation, against weakness, against laziness. And then when someone thinks something about you or says something about you, you have so much self-respect, and you don't care. The reality though is I didn't want to work. I just didn't want to work. I didn't want to find my guts and my passion and my alarm clock and get up at 5 a.m. and go to bed late and grind in between. I didn't want to do that. And the reason why is I was on this path where in America, at least for me, I was like 90% work and 10% misery. And the other path is still work. It's 90% work, 10% happiness. But I never knew what that looked like until I said, I'm going all in. So I would say recovery is like a campaign. And what I like about gut microbiome is when you get into like how to really repair the gut, it's everything. Like you have to exercise to do it. You can't, like I can eat a healthy diet, but if I'm sedentary, it's only going to help so much.
Yeah.
And you have to practice meditation. You have to calm yourself down because stress will kill the good guys.
Yeah.
Sedentary will kill the good guys. So you realize it's a life change. And everybody knows this. It might seem common sense. I think fermented foods are the only like secret, because anytime something can heal you that you can grow, like marijuana or shrooms, or you can make milk kefir at home, it seems it's hidden or it's illegal. They want you to depend on the pharmaceutical drug industry, and they want you to be sick and be a good consumer, like a good kid. So it is a little bit of a secret, but everybody knows diet and exercise we know this, but for some reason, knowing the science helped me. It helped me like say, okay, this is for real. Like, this is why I'm ADHD, because the bad bacteria strip dopamine away from the brain, and I'm self-medicating that deficiency. So to stay sober, I got to fill the dopamine gap. And I could do that with drugs, or I could do that by repairing the gut. And I did it with drugs. Adderall did work for me. Wellbutrin worked, but the problem is with medications is what happens when they stop working.
Yeah.
And then you rely on going to see the doctor every month. It can get expensive, and it's just not like what happens if that system crashes. I wanted to find a way to be self-sufficient, so I tried the gut way, and I'm way more focused than even when I was on medication. It works better. Wow. And I don't feel any need to use anything. It's like I feel a peace that I tell people it's kind of like extended release ecstasy, Adderall, and shrooms at the same time. I have this creativity, really? I have this focus, and I have this empathogenic peace of love.
All from repairing your gut?
Yeah, but hardcore. I mean, I run every morning. I do yoga every morning. I do weights, Wim Hof breathing, cold showers. I eat a lot of fermented foods, which I had to build up to. And I eat like really high fiber, and I only do one meal a day. Wow. So this is like, I went hard with it because I was like, I want to be the best I could be, so I can be the best. I can give people the best of me. Sure. And people will think I'm crazy, but when you're trying to be the best at something, it's okay to be unbalanced for a while, because once you become good at it, you can help other people be good at it. I learned a lot of things on this journey. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I was like, when there's some guy who's a yoga master, he said, like, do what the 99% of people aren't doing. And so when you do when you're uncommon, when you're in the common amongst average people, everybody's going to think you're crazy. I'm jumping in cold showers and making kefir. One time I was doing ozone therapy and I was shoving up my ass. I mean, I've done everybody's like, you're crazy, but that's like a good thing. They're saying you're uncommon, because I used to just try to be the best amongst the average. Like, the reality was, if 20 people were in the room and I was doing better than all the other 19, I thought, I'm good. I can live with that. But I realized that average is pretty sick, and that I was like at a very low level. Now I'm trying to be the best I can be. And that means like doing the things I don't want to do, or like every morning I write a list. What do I not want to do today? Yep. And that's what I do, and I get to where, like, jumping in a cold shower, you're pretty hesitant before you get in it, but it's doing something you don't want to do in the morning that gives you a sense of victory. And then when your boss asks you to do something, well, now you're used to it. It's like, that's what you do. There's no whining, complaining. You're just like, wow, this is so easy. Like my girlfriend helping her clean and stuff. It's just like nothing. I actually enjoy it. I'm like, this is like doing the things I don't want to do, but it's for someone else. I'm like, that's nice. I like that.
That's funny you say that. I was listening to, I think it was Jordan Peterson or some psychologist the other day. It said, what would happen if you did even 5 things, a day that you normally avoid for a month? How much would your life change? And I wrote that all over my board. Do whatever your brain says to avoid. But I was going to ask you, you mentioned the shrooms. What's your take on microdosing? Do you have any
I think it needs to be researched. It's a catch-22. It's like, they say shrooms are bad because they're not researched, but they can't be researched because they say they're bad and they're illegal. It's like a catch-22. It's like, okay, so this is like really stupid, that we can't research it and get like, I'm very into like data, and the data with psychedelics just isn't there for me to have a conclusion on it.
Sure.
That's saying the anecdotal evidence of what people are reporting is promising, I would say that. And like, it should be researched for war veterans of PTSD, people with addiction issues. And I think it's a healthier, safer alternative to things like Adderall and, things that, because it's like with Adderall, the tolerance that builds to it, because it permanently alters the brain every time you take it, that it's not as feasible of a long-term solution as something that's not organ toxic, like microdosing shrooms, where, yeah, you build a tolerance, but if you take a break and you go back to it, you'll be fine. You'll find in the ADHD community, a lot of people that took Adderall, it worked for them for a year or two. And even if they take a 6-month break now, it doesn't matter. Their tolerance never goes back down. And that says, it permanently altered them. And so now they have to switch to something else. And then they switch. That's what I said. The problem with medications is they stop working. And the natural stuff, though, they're just never going to research it. And if they do, all the research is going to be paid for and say it's bad because they don't want people growing it.
They can't make
money. Yeah. What happens when people start bartering? Like, what happens when you go to Jimmy John's and you tell the cashier, I'll give you a gram of weed for a sandwich? What happens to the dollar? And, it doesn't matter what's best for us. It matters to them what's best for them. That's my opinion.
That was incredible. You dropped so much knowledge, as always, like all your videos. In closing, is there anything you want to say, or do you have your new channel, right? A CG Kid Vlogs?
Yeah. I'll be back there. I'm going to do some 30-day challenges, like crazy health ones, and report what happened.
I'll definitely follow that and do that with you. I would love to.
Yeah, I want to do a 1 meal a day video. That one's pretty intense. And like, running, I don't know, probably be like one of those 30-day challenge people, quitting nicotine and all these like things that are crazy.
Do you use nicotine still?
I quit last weekend.
Oh, okay. Good for you.
But I got back on it.
Yeah.
I quit and somehow I justified cigarettes, and I found out cigarettes are way more addictive. So now I'm going to vape and quitting again.
Yeah. I quit a month ago. I went back to it. So
yeah.
It is what it is. But CG Kid, thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Incredible knowledge you dropped. And I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, much love, man.